The bright lights of Earth's interstellar embassy glowed against the night sky. Dr. Alexis Mercer adjusted her formal suit and took a deep breath. Tonight was important. After decades of sending signals to the stars, aliens had finally answered. Now, representatives from the Galactic Concord were visiting Earth for the first time. Alexis had studied alien biology for 15 years, but seeing actual aliens up close still amazed her. The reception hall buzzed with voices. Human diplomats in dark suits mixed with beings of all shapes and colors. The tall, thin Viridians with their green skin, the squat, furry Ganteri who spoke in musical tones, and the Marisol, who needed special water-filled suits to breathe outside their ocean worlds. "Quite a night, isn't it?" said Frank Donovan, her research partner. "I never thought I'd see something like this in my lifetime." Alexis nodded, watching a Marisol diplomat float gracefully in its water suit toward the human Secretary of State. "It's incredible. All these different species, different worlds, and yet here we are talking to each other." The reception seemed to be going well. The aliens appeared curious about humans, examining the food, the architecture, and asking questions through their translation devices. Alexis noted how they kept their distance from each other. The species of the Galactic Concord weren't exactly friends, more like careful business partners. That's when it happened. The Marisol diplomat who had been speaking with the secretary suddenly stopped moving. Its water suit rippled strangely. Then, before anyone could react, the water inside turned cloudy red. The alien's body went limp. Alexis rushed forward as the room erupted into chaos. She reached the fallen diplomat first, her medical training kicking in. But as she examined the water suit, she knew it was too late. The Marisol was dead. "What happened?" someone shouted. Security officers rushed in, ordering everyone to stay calm. Alexis stepped back as they surrounded the body. But before they could secure the scene, a scream came from across the room. A Viridian diplomat collapsed, clutching at its chest. Green blood seeped between its long fingers. And then a Ganteri fell too, its fur turning stiff as its body seized up. The humans in the room panicked, but strangely, none of them fell ill or showed any signs of injury. Whatever was killing the aliens wasn't affecting the humans at all. Frank grabbed Alexis's arm and pulled her toward a security monitor. "Look," he said, pointing at the screen. The footage showed something almost invisible, a shimmer in the air like heat waves on a hot road. This shimmer moved purposefully through the crowd, passing through humans without effect. But whenever it touched certain aliens, they died within seconds. "What is that thing?" Alexis whispered. The surviving aliens had backed away to the far side of the room. They were talking urgently among themselves, their translation devices struggling to keep up. Alexis moved closer to hear. "Void wraiths," one of the Viridians said, its voice shaking. "It cannot be. They are just stories to frighten children." "No," replied an elder Ganteri. "They are real. My people have records going back thousands of years. Invisible killers that come without warning and leave without trace." A human diplomat joined the conversation. "What are these?" "Void wraiths." The aliens looked at each other, then at the humans with new suspicion in their eyes. "Assassins," the Ganteri said finally. "The most feared killers in the galaxy. No one knows who controls them or how they choose their targets. But in all our histories, in every record of every attack." The alien paused, looking around the room where only aliens had fallen while humans stood unarmed. "The void wraiths have never been known to ignore any species before. Why are humans the only ones safe from them?" As security locked down the embassy, Alexis looked at the bodies being covered and removed. This first contact had turned into something dark and mysterious. And somehow, humanity had just become the center of a galactic mystery that had been ongoing for millennia. 3 weeks after the embassy attack, Jack Winters stood in the wreckage of an alien research station orbiting Mars. 4 more aliens dead, 0 humans harmed. The pattern was becoming clear. Jack ran his hand over the burn marks on the wall. His time as a Marine had taught him to spot the signs of violence. But this was different. These weren't bullet holes or explosion damage. It was like something had simply passed through the walls, and then through the aliens themselves. "Mr. Winters," a voice called from behind him. Jack turned to see a small woman with dark hair pulled into a tight bun. "I'm Maya Patel, xenolinguistics specialist. I was told you needed a translator." Jack nodded. "The security recordings have alien language I can't understand." The victims were talking about something right before they died. They walked to the station's control room, where Jack played the security feed. The recording showed 3 Viridians and 1 Marisol working at their stations when suddenly they all looked up in alarm. They spoke quickly in their native languages before the shimmer appeared and moved through them one by one. Naya listened carefully, her eyes closed in concentration. The Viridian in the blue suit said, "It's here, the shadow that hunts." Then the Marisol said something like, "But there are no contracts here. We've done nothing wrong." The last thing the final Viridian said was, "The immune ones will come again." "The immune ones?" Jack asked. "Does that mean humans?" "I think so," Naya replied. "I've been reading old texts from various alien cultures since the embassy incident. There are stories going back thousands of years about invisible killers that the Concord species call void wraiths. But I found something strange. Mentions of beings who couldn't be touched by the wraiths." Jack's communication device buzzed. It was a message from Earth Command. Another attack had happened, this time on an alien cruise ship passing Saturn. Jack and Naya were ordered to investigate immediately. On the journey to Saturn, Naya showed Jack her research. "Look at this," she said, pointing to an ancient alien text translated on her tablet. "This is from a civilization that disappeared about 50,000 years ago. It mentions the untouchable ones who could walk among the shadow killers without harm." "Sounds like humans," Jack said. "But that's impossible. Humans weren't in space 50,000 years ago. We were still figuring out farming on Earth." "That's the mystery," Naya replied. "Either these texts are referring to some other species that's now extinct, or what? Or there's something about humans that connects to something ancient, something that makes us special without us knowing it." When they arrived at the cruise ship, the scene was worse than the research station. 27 alien tourists dead, but the human staff all unharmed. The ship's captain, a Gantari with silver fur, was barely holding himself together. "Your kind did this," the captain growled when he saw Jack. "Somehow, humans control the void wraiths. Why else would they spare you?" "That's not true," Jack said firmly. "We're investigating these attacks just like you." "Then explain why, after thousands of years of void wraith attacks across the galaxy, they suddenly ignore humans completely." Naya stepped between them. "Captain, we need to see your ship's sensor data. Perhaps it recorded something that can help us understand what these creatures are." The captain reluctantly agreed. In the ship's data center, they found something new, a brief energy spike just before the attack. "I've seen this pattern before," Naya said excitedly. "In the classified records I accessed. It's some kind of dimensional shift, like something moving between layers of space." Jack studied the readings. "So these void wraiths aren't just invisible, they're actually moving in and out of our reality." Naya nodded. "And for some reason, they either can't see humans or can't touch us." As they left the ship, Jack received another message. The Galactic Concord had called an emergency meeting. Some alien factions were demanding that all contact with humans be cut off immediately. Others wanted to study humans to understand their immunity. "We need answers fast," Jack said, looking at the stars, "before this turns into something worse than just assassinations." Naya gripped her tablet tightly. "I think I know where to look next. There's a historian on Europa who specializes in pre-Concord civilizations. If anyone knows the truth about these void wraiths and why humans are immune, it would be him." Dr. Samantha Rivera yawned as she looked at the blood samples under her microscope. It was past midnight at the Houston Space Medical Center, but she couldn't stop working. Not when the fate of human-alien relations might depend on her research. "Find anything yet?" asked her assistant, Kevin Miller, bringing her a cup of coffee. "Maybe," Samantha said, taking the cup gratefully. "Human blood is different from all alien samples we have. We knew that already. But I'm starting to think our iron-based blood might be the key." On her computer screen, different blood samples were displayed side by side. Human blood with its red blood cells rich in iron. Viridian blood, green and copper-based. Marisol fluid, blue and using vanadium instead of iron. Gantary blood, amber-colored with complex proteins no human had fully understood yet. "The electromagnetic field our blood creates is unique," Samantha explained, pointing to another screen showing energy readings. "Every living thing gives off a faint electrical field, but ours has a specific pattern I haven't seen in any alien species." Kevin nodded slowly. "And you think that's why the Void Wraiths ignore us? They can't detect us. Or they're programmed not to attack our specific pattern," Samantha replied. "Either way, I need more data." Their conversation was interrupted by a loud alarm. Red emergency lights began flashing throughout the lab. "Security breach in Sector 7, announced a computerized voice. "All personnel evacuate immediately." Samantha quickly saved her data and locked her computer. Sector 7 was just 2 floors below them. Kevin grabbed the emergency kit as they headed for the door. But before they could reach it, the door burst open. 3 aliens rushed in, 2 Viridians, and a Gantary. They wore human-style clothes instead of their normal diplomatic garments. The Gantary held what looked like a weapon. "Stop your research now," the Gantary demanded, its translation device making the voice sound flat and emotionless. "You humans are weaponizing your immunity. You seek to control the Void Wraiths." Samantha stepped forward cautiously. "That's not true. We're trying to understand why they ignore us. If we can figure that out, maybe we can protect everyone." "Lies," hissed one of the Viridians. "Our intelligence shows your military leaders meeting in secret. You plan to use the Wraiths against the Concord." Kevin moved slowly toward an alarm button on the wall, but the Gantary noticed and pointed its weapon at him. "Do not move, human." The tension in the room was broken by a strange sound, like static electricity but louder. The air near the ceiling began to shimmer. The aliens looked up in horror. "No," whispered the Gantary. "Not here. Not now." The shimmer moved through the room, passing harmlessly through Samantha and Kevin. But when it reached the aliens, they froze in terror. One by one, they collapsed to the floor. The Viridian's green skin turned gray almost instantly. The Gantary's fur stood on end as it fell. In less than 10 seconds, all 3 aliens were dead. The shimmer moved through the wall and disappeared. Security forces arrived minutes later, led by a grim-faced commander. "Are you two okay?" he asked. Samantha nodded, still staring at the dead aliens. "They came to stop my research. They thought we were trying to control the Void Wraiths. And then a Wraith showed up and killed them," Kevin added, his voice shaking. "It's like it was protecting us." The commander frowned. "This is the 5th attack this week. Always when aliens threaten humans, but never targeting us directly." He looked at Samantha. "Please tell me you're making progress on understanding why." Samantha walked back to her computer and unlocked it. The screen showed her latest discovery. A unique electromagnetic signature produced by human blood that created a field around the human body. "I think I'm starting to understand," she said quietly. "It's not that the Wraiths can't see us. I think they recognize us. Our blood carries a signal that tells them we're off limits." The commander looked confused. "But why? What makes humans special?" "That's what I need to find out," Samantha said, looking at the dead aliens on her lab floor. Before more people die. The abandoned space station hung in the darkness like a forgotten toy. Once a trading post between 3 alien species, it had been empty for nearly 20 years after a series of unexplained deaths. Jack Winters now knew those deaths were likely caused by void wraiths. This is where the energy signature is strongest, Naya said, checking her scanner as their small ship docked with the station. If we're going to find answers, it will be here. Jack checked his gear one last time. Stay behind me. Just because these things don't attack humans doesn't mean this place is safe. They entered the station through an airlock. The lights were off, but their flashlights showed dusty corridors and signs written in alien languages. Naya's scanner beeped softly as they moved deeper into the station. The signal is coming from the central hub, she whispered. Neither of them knew why they were whispering, but the empty station made them feel like they were in a graveyard. As they approached the central hub, they heard a noise. Jack raised his weapon, but lowered it when he saw the source, a human man sitting at an old control panel, typing. I was wondering when someone would track them here, the man said without looking up. Took you long enough. Who are you? Jack demanded. The man turned around. He was in his 40s with a scar across his left cheek. Name's Leo Carter. I've been studying the wraiths for about 7 years now. 7 years? Naya asked in surprise. But the attacks only started hitting the news a few weeks ago. Leo laughed. The attacks have been happening for thousands of years. They just never targeted important enough aliens to make galactic headlines, and they never bothered humans because we weren't out in space enough to notice. Jack kept his hand near his weapon. How do you know all this? I used to be a salvage operator. Found an old alien ship with records of wraith attacks going back centuries. Been tracking them ever since. Leo pointed to a large container in the corner. And last month, I finally caught part of one. Jack and Naya approached the container cautiously. Inside was a swirling, shimmering mass contained in an energy field. That's a void wraith, Jack asked. Part of one, Leo explained. They're not single entities. They're swarms of tiny machines, nanites, programmed to target specific genetic markers. Billions of microscopic robots working together, passing through solid matter by shifting slightly out of phase with our reality. Naya studied the swirling mass. Who created them? That's the big question, Leo said. From what I've pieced together, they're leftovers from a war that ended thousands of years ago. Nobody controls them now. They just follow their original programming, hunting down specific genetic signatures throughout the galaxy. But why don't they target humans? Jack asked. Leo pointed to a screen showing microscopic images. Look at these nanites. They have recognition protocols. They scan for certain genetic and neural patterns. If they find a match, they attack. If they don't, they ignore. Humans simply don't match their target profile. Dr. Rivera's research showed something about human blood creating a unique electromagnetic field, Naya said. Leo nodded eagerly. Exactly. The iron in our blood generates a field that the nanites recognize as friendly, or at least not target. My theory is that whoever programmed these things thousands of years ago was either human or very similar to us. Jack stared at the swirling mass. So these things have been killing aliens for thousands of years because of programming from some ancient civilization. And now that humans are out in space, everyone thinks we control them, Naya added. Leo turned back to his computer. It gets worse. I've been tracking their movements across the galaxy. They're all coming from somewhere, a source that's still creating them. And I found coordinates. He showed them a star map with a blinking point far from any known civilization. That's where they're coming from, Leo said. A structure orbiting a dying star. If we want to stop the killings and clear humanity's name, we need to go there. Jack looked at the coordinates thoughtfully. We'll need a better ship, and clearance from Earth Command, and protection from the aliens who want us all dead, Naya added grimly. Admiral Diane Martinez stood before the Galactic Concord representatives, feeling their suspicious eyes on her. The great meeting hall on the neutral space station, Harmony, was filled with delegates from 27 different species. The emergency session had been called to discuss what many were now calling the human problem. The evidence is clear, said the Viridian ambassador, his green skin flushed darker with emotion. These void wraiths have existed for millennia, yet they spare humans completely. This cannot be coincidence. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the alien delegates. We propose that all human worlds be quarantined immediately, continued the ambassador. No human ships should be allowed beyond their solar system until we understand their connection to these assassins. Diane stepped forward to the speaking platform. At 52, she had spent her career building bridges between Earth and alien civilizations. Now all that work was in danger. The people of Earth and our colonies are victims in this situation too, she said calmly. We have launched our own investigation into the void wraiths. We want answers just as much as you do. Yet your people remain unharmed, growled a Gantari representative, while our diplomats and scientists die. Diane took a deep breath. We have discovered that these wraiths are not living beings but ancient machines. They follow programming from a civilization that may have died out thousands of years ago. We are tracking their source and... She was interrupted by a piercing alarm. The station's security system had detected an intruder. Before anyone could react, the doors to the chamber sealed shut automatically. Security breach in the Concorde chamber, announced the station's eye. Unknown entities detected. Several aliens jumped from their seats in panic. Void wraiths, someone shouted. The familiar shimmer appeared near the ceiling. Not just one this time, but 3 separate swirling masses entered the room, moving purposefully toward the delegates. Everyone stay calm, Diane shouted. She pressed her emergency communicator. All human security personnel to the Concorde chamber immediately. Wraith attack in progress. The alien delegates pressed against the walls, trying to get away from the shimmers. The wraiths moved among them, seemingly searching for specific targets. A Marisol diplomat collapsed as a wraith passed through him. Then a Viridian female fell. The room descended into chaos as the aliens tried to escape while the doors remained locked by the security system. The doors finally slid open, and a team of human security officers rushed in, led by Captain Great Howard. Form a perimeter around the delegates, Diane ordered. Use the pulse disruptors. The human officers moved forward without fear, carrying devices developed based on Dr. Rivera's research. The disruptors emitted an electromagnetic pulse designed to interfere with the nanites' programming. Greg aimed his disruptor at the nearest wraith and fired. The shimmer wavered and scattered. The nanite swarm temporarily disrupted. The other officers did the same, forcing the wraiths away from the alien delegates. For the first time, the Concorde species witnessed humans actively protecting them from the void wraiths. The security team formed a human shield between the aliens and the assassins. When the last wraith had been driven off, Diane turned to face the stunned delegates. As you can see, she said quietly, humans are not controlling these assassins, but we may be the key to stopping them. She gestured to the human security team. Only we can approach them safely. Only we can disrupt them with the right technology. The Viridian ambassador stepped forward. His earlier hostility had been replaced by thoughtful consideration. Perhaps, he said slowly, instead of quarantine, we should consider a different approach. An alliance, with humans as our protectors. Diane nodded. That is what I propose. Allow our scientists to continue their research. Let our ships track these wraiths to their source. Together, we can end this threat that has plagued your people for thousands of years. As the delegates began to discuss this new proposal, Diane's communicator buzzed. It was a message from Earth Command. Jack Winters and his team had departed for the coordinates where the void wraiths originated. The hunt for answers had begun. Dr. Samantha Rivera stared at the brain scans on her screen with growing excitement. After weeks of testing, she had made a breakthrough that could explain everything. Look at this, she said to Kevin and the alien scientists who had joined her research team. It's not just the iron in our blood that protects us. It's our brain patterns. On the large display, different colored brain scans showed electrical activity from various species. The human brain scans had a distinct pattern compared to all the alien ones. The void wraiths don't just detect our blood's electromagnetic field, Samantha explained. They're scanning for specific neural patterns, and they're programmed to attack some patterns but ignore others. Zeal, a Viridian scientist who had bravely volunteered to work with the humans, studied the scans. But what does this mean? Why would ancient machines care about brain patterns? Samantha pulled up more data. I've analyzed the attack records from across the galaxy. The void wraiths don't attack every alien they encounter. They're selective, even within the same species. She showed a chart tracking which individuals had been targeted. The common factor is subtle brain activity in this region. She pointed to an area that humans called the parietal lobe. In every victim, there was higher activity here than normal. "And what does this brain region do?" asked Kevin. "In most alien species, it's associated with telepathic abilities," answered Zeal, his eyes widening with understanding. "Not all members of our species have these abilities, but those who do have enhanced activity in this exact region." Samantha nodded. "Exactly. The void wraiths aren't targeting specific species. They're targeting individuals with telepathic potential." "But humans don't have telepathic abilities," Kevin said, confused. "No, we don't," Samantha agreed. "Our brains evolved differently. The region that aliens use for telepathy, we use for spatial awareness and language. That's why the wraiths ignore us completely. We don't register on their telepathy scan." Zeal sat down heavily, his green skin paling. "This changes everything we thought we knew. It means there was once a war between telepathic species and non-telepathic ones. And the non-telepathic side created the void wraiths as weapons," Samantha finished. "Programmed to hunt down anyone with telepathic abilities, generation after generation." Her computer beeped with an incoming message. It was from Jack Winters. "We've captured part of a void wraith swarm," Jack reported. "The nanites are programmed to target neural patterns associated with telepathy. We're heading to what we believe is their source." Samantha quickly shared her team's findings with Jack. As they compared notes, another piece of the puzzle fell into place. If the wraiths were created to fight against telepathic species, Samantha said, then humans might be descendants of the people who created them. That would explain why we're immune. "But Earth has no record of advanced space travel thousands of years ago," Kevin pointed out. Zeal's eyes narrowed in thought. "Unless your ancestors were placed on Earth deliberately, hidden away as a safeguard population." The idea stunned everyone into silence. Could humans be descendants of an ancient spacefaring civilization that had hidden themselves on Earth? Had they been genetically modified to remove all trace of their origins and any telepathic abilities? Their discussion was interrupted when Admiral Martinez joined the video call. She looked tired but determined. "Dr. Rivera, we need your research immediately. The Concorde has agreed to a joint mission to the Wraith source coordinates. They're sending a science vessel to rendezvous with our ship." "When do we leave?" Samantha asked without hesitation. "The ship departs in 6 hours. Captain Ryan Mitchell will command the mission. Jack and his team will meet you there." The Admiral's expression grew more serious. "This is humanity's chance to prove we're not behind these attacks. Find out who created the wraiths and why they recognize humans as friendly." After the call ended, Samantha began packing her research materials. The answers they sought weren't on Earth or in any alien library. They were waiting at the mysterious source of the void wraiths, orbiting a dying star at the edge of charted space. The starship Horizon's edge moved slowly toward the massive structure orbiting the dying red star. Captain Ryan Mitchell had never seen anything like it. The structure was bigger than Earth's moon, a perfect sphere covered with intricate patterns that glowed with faint blue light. "Are we recording this?" Ryan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every sensor is active, Captain," replied his science officer. "We're getting readings unlike anything in our database." The joint human-alien expedition had arrived at the coordinates Leo Carter had discovered. The human ship Horizon's Edge traveled alongside the Concorde science vessel Light of Discovery. Both crews watched in awe as they approached the ancient structure. On the bridge, Dr. Samantha Rivera studied the sensor readings with Jack Winters and Naya Patil at her side. Leo Carter stood slightly apart, his expression one of vindication after years of searching. "The structure is at least 50,000 years old," Samantha said, "but it's still generating power. And look at this energy signature." She pointed to a reading that pulsed rhythmically. "It matches the void wraiths exactly." "This is definitely their source," Jack confirmed. "But is anyone home?" As if in answer to his question, a beam of light shot out from the sphere and scanned both ships. Everyone tensed, but nothing hostile happened. "We're receiving a transmission," announced the communications officer. "It's in an unknown language." Naya rushed to the console. She listened to the strange sounds for a moment, then began typing rapidly on her computer. "It's similar to some ancient language fragments I've studied. I think I can translate it with help from my algorithm." After several tense minutes, Naya looked up in surprise. "It's inviting us inside, but only the humans." The alien captain of the Light of Discovery appeared on the view screen. "This confirms our suspicions. The makers of this structure and the void wraiths recognize humans, but not as enemies," Ryan pointed out. "They're inviting us in to talk." After a brief discussion with both crews, a decision was made. Captain Ryan would leave a small team including Jack, Naya, Samantha, and Leo to enter the structure. The alien scientists would monitor from their ship. A docking tunnel extended from the sphere, connecting to Horizon's edge. The human team entered cautiously, weapons ready despite the seemingly peaceful invitation. Inside, they found corridors that lit up as they walked, responding to their presence. The walls were covered with symbols similar to those on the outside. "These look like mathematical equations," Naya said, running her hand over one section. "Advanced physics, quantum mechanics, things we're only beginning to understand." They followed the lit path until they reached a vast chamber in the center of the sphere. In the middle stood what looked like a control console surrounding a column of swirling blue energy. As they approached, the energy column shifted and formed into a humanoid shape. It wasn't solid, more like a hologram made of mist and light, but it moved and seemed to look at them with curiosity. "Welcome, descendants," it said in perfect English, its voice resonating throughout the chamber. "I am the Guardian. I have waited a long time for your return." Ryan stepped forward. "You speak our language." "I speak all languages. I have monitored your communications since you entered this star system." The figure of light moved closer. "You have questions about the protectors I created, the ones you call void wraiths." "You created them?" Jack asked. "Why do they kill aliens but leave humans alone?" "Because that is their purpose," the Guardian replied simply. "To protect the galaxy from the assimilation. To prevent the rise of the collective mind that once threatened to consume all independent consciousness." Samantha moved forward. "The telepathic species you fought against." The Guardian's form brightened. "Yes. Long ago, telepathic species joined their minds together, creating a hive consciousness that sought to absorb all thinking beings. My creators fought a war against this collective mind. We won, but at great cost." "Your creators?" Naya asked. "Who were they?" The Guardian's light form shifted, changing shape until it looked remarkably human. "They called themselves the Precursors, and you are their descendants, modified and hidden away on a protected world as our final safeguard." 1 month after the discovery of the Guardian, Earth's largest conference hall was filled to capacity. Representatives from every human colony and all 27 species of the Galactic Concord had gathered to decide the fate of the void wraiths. Dr. Alexis Mercer, who had witnessed the first attack at the embassy, now stood on stage beside Admiral Martinez. On large screens behind them, images of the ancient sphere and the Guardian were displayed. "Today we face a choice that will shape the future of all our civilizations," Admiral Martinez began. "The void wraiths, created 50,000 years ago to fight a war that ended long before any of our recorded histories, continued to follow their original programming. Alexis stepped forward. We now understand that the precursors, our ancestors, fought against a telepathic collective consciousness that threatened all independent life. They created the Guardian and the Void Wraiths as weapons, and when the war was won, they hid themselves on Earth, modifying their genetics to remove their advanced technological knowledge and any telepathic abilities. Murmurs spread through the alien delegates. The revelation that humans were descendants of the legendary precursors had shocked the galaxy. The Guardian has given us control over the Void Wraiths, Admiral Martinez continued. We can shut them down permanently, ending their threat forever. Or we can reprogram them to serve as protectors rather than assassins. The lead Viridian delegate rose. How can we trust humans with this power? Your ancestors created these killers. Now you control them. Jack Winters stood from his seat in the front row. The precursors gave up their advanced civilization to ensure the telepathic collective would never return. They chose to forget who they were, to live simple lives on Earth, developing naturally over thousands of years. They chose peace, and now we choose peace again, Samantha Rivera added. We propose the Sentinel Protocol, reprogramming the Void Wraiths to protect all sentient life, regardless of telepathic ability. A Gantari elder spoke next. But what of those with telepathic abilities? Many of our species have developed these gifts naturally, without any desire to form a collective mind. Naya Patel, who had helped translate the Guardian's ancient language, offered an answer. The reprogrammed wraiths will only respond to harmful telepathic intrusion. They will protect mental privacy for all beings, but allow beneficial telepathic communication. Debate continued for hours. Some species wanted all Void Wraiths destroyed. Others wanted humanity to relinquish control to the Concord. But in the end, the Sentinel Protocol was approved by a narrow margin. 3 days later, Alexis Mercer stood in the Guardian's chamber, watching as the reprogramming began. The swirling blue energy beam showed her images of Void Wraiths throughout the galaxy, changing their directives, shifting from assassins to protectors. Your ancestors would be proud, the Guardian told her. They hoped that one day their descendants would return, not as conquerors, but as peacemakers. Back on Earth, Samantha made another discovery. Some humans showed very faint signs of the same brain patterns the Void Wraiths had been programmed to target. The precursors' genetic changes were gradually wearing off. In a few thousand years, humans might develop telepathic abilities themselves. Jack and Naya began training special teams to work with the reprogrammed wraiths, now called Sentinels. These teams would respond to threats throughout the galaxy, with humans serving as intermediaries between the Sentinels and other species. Admiral Martinez signed the final treaty with the Galactic Concord. Humanity would serve as guardians of the Guardian, ensuring the Sentinels protected all life equally. As Alexis watched the first Sentinel team depart Earth on their mission of protection, rather than assassination, she thought about the long journey her species had taken. From forgotten descendants of an advanced civilization, to primitive planet-bound humans, to spacefaring diplomats, and now to guardians of galactic peace. The answer to why humans were the only ones safe from alien assassins had led to humanity's new purpose in the stars. Not as conquerors or victims, but as protectors of the very diversity of consciousness their ancestors had fought to preserve.